Welcome to the Positively Joyful Productivity Show, where joy isn't a reward for productivity, it's the secret ingredient. I'm your host, Nicole Louise, coach, wife, and dog mom. This is a no-kid zone by design, created for women who are child-free, childless, or an empty nester embracing your next chapter. You all belong here. Each week, you'll hear inspiring stories from women around the world and learn tools, mindset shifts, and practical strategies for living a joyful life. You'll also discover the science behind why focusing on joy fuels focus, motivation, and lasting productivity. Let's get inspired, get organized, and create a life full of freedom, focus, and joy. Well, hey there, and welcome back to the Positively Joyful Productivity Show. Today, I am going to talk about something that is very near and dear to me, very personally. I'm going to talk about productivity tools for introverts. So, if you are a fellow introvert like myself, this episode is just for you because our energy, the way we process our energy, the way we work, is very different than extroverts. So I'm really, really excited to talk about this today. I don't feel like there's enough out there for us introverts. So I'm especially excited to dive into this. All right. So as I just said, I personally am an introvert and I get completely overwhelmed and exhausted by large social interactions. Over the years building my business, I've joined different group coaching sessions and I've found them incredibly valuable. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those. However, as an introvert, on the Zoom calls, so typically when you join a group coaching program, there's Zoom calls that go along with it, and the coach will, get on and talk and do different things, for the members. And so what would frequently happen, especially in really where there's like a lot of people, not so much if it's a smaller group setting, but if there's a lot of people, like I was part of one group program where there are thousands of people. I've been in this situation a couple of times actually, now that I think back. But what can happen is on the Zoom calls, the coach who you paid to listen to is talking and teaching and doing all the things. And then the chat on Zoom is like going crazy. And that just drives me insane because I have a really hard time. Like, I'm paying to listen to the coach, right? And the chat is just going and going and going and going and going. And like some of the stuff, it's like, oh yeah, people are saying, good, thoughtful things. And then there's other people who are just like chit chatty. And I feel like those are definitely those extroverts who thrive in those social settings and like need to chit chat with other people and need to be a part of the group and the all the things. Where me, I'm like, oh my God, I have to turn the chat off. Like I have to minimize it because I can't handle it. So that's just one one example of how I just like can't deal with like the big groups and the constant like noise and chaos. I can't do it. And it's funny because right now, actually, it's a Saturday when I'm recording this episode, and my husband is currently at a graduation party for a distant friend. Like, it's not someone who's very close to us, but her son just graduated high school, and we were invited to the party, and I was like, I don't want to go. I don't know anybody. It's like I said, it's a distant friend. It's not someone that we're very close to. So I'm not going to know hardly anybody attending this event. And things like that are so draining to me because you have to make that meaningless small chit chat with people you don't know and you're never going to see again. And it's a lot. And so I chose to stay home and record this episode for my fellow introverts who would also choose not to go to the party. So, yeah. So if you can relate to any of this, then this is totally the episode for you. So this is, like I said, we're going to talk about productivity, of course, but specifically for introverts. So, by the end of this episode, you're going to walk away with some really insightful tips that are going to help you personally as a fellow introvert. And you're going to have some low key, high impact strategies that actually work for you and they don't drain your energy. So, that's what we're diving into today. So, let's get into it, shall we? All right. I want to start first with just kind of going over why us introverts need a different time management approach for starters. So, I have two sisters who are not introverts. They are definitely extroverts, both of them. They both love and thrive, being in the social scene and like connecting with other people and talking and da 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 and all the things. And so it's really difficult for both of them to understand that I literally have to take a nap after I go to like a big social function. That is how draining it is for me. And they don't seem to understand that. And so if you're listening and you're someone who knows an introvert and maybe you don't quite understand why they don't want to go to social events or why they're tired afterwards or why they need to just be alone, this is also for you. So this part in particular. So being introverted means that you require, it's not a luxury. It's not oh, I'd like to just go sit and, take a rest or whatever. It is a necessity that introverts have quiet time in order to recharge energy. It's not like I said, it is not a luxury. Like it is something that we have to do. Being in large group settings, large social settings, being around a lot of noise, a lot of chaos. Like I'm a teacher. If yeah, you probably know that from listening to me, but as a teacher, like being around the kids all day long, being around the constant noise and movement and the chaos of the classroom, that is incredibly draining to me. And so when I come home, I have to sort of process all of that. And so that was where going for a walk after work every day with my dog to just sort of decompress, I have to do that. And so again, it's how introverts recharge. Like we have to have that quiet time. It's not a luxury. It's not something, it's not laziness. Like I think that can be a common misconception is that introverts get labeled as lazy because, we need to actually take a nap or be alone. And again, it's not laziness, not in the least bit. It is 1,000,000% how we recharge ourselves. And so things like, if you're running a business and you have, back to back Zoom calls or phone calls, for several hours of the day or like back to back meetings, that can lead to burnout, like very serious burnout because there's no time to recharge. Me personally, you've heard I've had amazing guests on this podcast, and that is something that requires so much focus for me because I want to make sure that I'm asking good questions and, it's an engaging conversation for you, the listener. But I only schedule one of those a day because it's very draining. It's a lot of energy that I have to expend. Even though it's one person, it's a very intense kind of conversation. It's very different than just chatting with your friend, even though it has felt like chatting with my friends when you're running a podcast. It's a whole different ballgame. So anyway, I only schedule one podcast interview per day just because I need that mental recovery afterwards. So if you know someone or you yourself are an introvert, you work hard, you have hobbies, and you can often feel behind even though you need to rest. So let's talk about some tips that can help you get things done in a way that supports you and supports your need to recharge. So, I'm going to start out with some, I guess we can call them old school productivity hacks. I've got a couple of tools that will help you. And then I want to talk about AI and how AI is just made for us introverts. So I'll get into that after our old school productivity hacks. So the first one is a tool that you can use if you have a really busy schedule. So it's called the focus and flow block. So what it is, it's kind of similar to the Pomodoro technique. So if you're familiar with the Pomodoro technique, this will sound familiar. If you're unfamiliar with that, the Pomodoro technique is where you actually set a timer for 20 minutes. You work for those 20 minutes and then you take like a 5 to 10 minute break. And then you can set your timer again, work for 20 minutes, take a 5 to 10 minute break. It's an amazing strategy for people with ADHD. And so this sort of builds on that if you have, a really, really packed schedule. If you are someone who needs those shorter blocks of time, like 20 minutes, then definitely stick with the Pomodoro. But again, this focus and flow block, it kind of ties into that. So what it is, it's one block of 90 minutes per day, and then you build in that quiet time after. So this is it's basically the Pomodoro technique on steroids. Okay. So instead of 20 minutes, we're doing 90 minutes. So think about, I'll give you examples how I use this for my business. So if I have to, so after my podcast episode, I'll create social media clips, I'll create my newsletter, my blog, and of course, all of those things take time. And I use time blocking because as a teacher, I only have so much time during a day, Monday through Friday. And so I'll take chunks of time and I'm like, okay, I've got, an hour here or an hour and a half there. I am solely focusing on getting these specific things done. And especially when it comes to writing tasks, you need that time, that length of time to really get into that flow state and get rolling with it. And so if you you know what I'm talking about if you're a writer or if you have writing tasks. It takes a bit for your brain to get into that flow, get into okay, I'm doing this, I'm feeling good. That's called flow. It's an actual thing. If you didn't know, I actually recently learned that a few months back, actually. So flow is a real thing. So getting into that flow, it does take some time sometimes. Sometimes you can get right into it, but for most of us, for the majority of the time, it does take a few minutes to kind of get into that state. And so giving yourself that 90-minute block of time allows your brain to get into that flow state. And then once your 90 minutes are done, whew, okay, you need that mental break. You are ready. I know because, again, I do this myself. All the tools that I share with you, I do these things myself because they help and support me. And that's why I love sharing them with you because I know that they work. So again, giving yourself that break afterwards. And if you're also like me and you're like, no, I'm just going to power through. I just have one more thing. I am so guilty of that. However, I am getting more intentional about forcing, and I don't, that's a strong word, but I do have to sometimes force myself to stop and take that break because I do find, and you probably experience this too, where you hit a wall and your brain, your eyes start to go a little cross-eyed if you're working at your computer or reading something, and you just sort of start to move a little slower and it's more laborious to get the words out and it's just harder, right? And so I have gotten so much better at recognizing that trigger in myself. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop because I'm not going to produce my best work right now. And so I need to walk away. It is time to recharge. So again, tuning into yourself. I've talked about this in other episodes before, but tuning into yourself is really key, especially as an introvert, knowing when you need to pause and hit the reset button. So the focus and flow block. So that's your first strategy. The second one I'm going to talk about is called the Sunday preview ritual. So this is something I have gotten in the habit of doing over the years. And I get my husband on board with this too, especially if there is like a vet appointment for Abby, our dog. I'll just let him know, like, hey, this is going on, or doctor's appointments with myself. And he'll do the same with me, like, oh, hey, I've got to do this for work this week, or I have a doctor appointment, so I'll be home this day. So, anyway, the Sunday preview ritual is just on Sunday, you just sort of check your calendar, look ahead, see what your week is bringing you, and intentionally schedule in or leave space for that time to recharge and reset. So, this might look like, I'll give you an example for myself. So, if I have a doctor appointment scheduled on Thursday after work, we'll say, I usually like to go grocery shopping. Well, I used to, I've changed that now, but like last year, I would go grocery shopping on like Thursday or Friday. Now I go Saturday morning, which is so much nicer. You know what? I'm going to talk about that next. Stick a pin in that. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm like talking in circles. Let me clarify this. I used to go grocery shopping on Thursday and Friday. So, with that system in place, if I had a doctor appointment after work on a Thursday, I would go grocery shopping on Friday because I typically go right from work to the doctor's appointment and then I come home. Or I'll come home first, check on Abby, go to the doctor, come back. That's a long day for me after being in the classroom all day long and again, being around the kids and the energy and the movement and the noise and the chaos of classroom teaching. It's a lot. And then having to go to a doctor appointment, which is a whole different cognitive load. You have to, I very much have to switch gears from being in teacher mode and talking to small humans to, having a very in-depth, very grown-up conversation with the doctor, right? It's very different. And so it's a lot for my brain to sort of like swing around and respond to all of that too. So it's again, as an introvert, very, very draining, and I need that time to reset. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, like going to the grocery store, that is draining for me too. So I don't do those two things on the same day. I give myself time to come home after the doctor appointment, relax, settle, and then I go to the grocery store and deal with that the next day. Okay, so grocery store. So I have started, instead of going to the grocery store after work. Okay, so let's think about that cognitively, like what's happening in your brain. So you're dealing with work all day long, meetings, phone calls, whatever is happening at work. So you're handling that all day long. Your brain is handling that all day long. And again, as an introvert, you need that space to unwind. So, if you are like me and the grocery store can be an incredibly draining experience with all of the people and the noise and the traffic, I have another solution for you. I found that going to the grocery store Saturday morning, I'm talking early, like 8 o'clock in the morning. I actually went 7 o'clock this week and it was glorious. There was like nobody there. Everybody is pretty nice and in a good mood because it's first thing in the morning. People are polite. And so, as an introvert, like, whoa, what a shift in my energy. Like, I don't feel like I have to go home and take a nap after that. So, there's another bonus tip for you. Do your shopping on Saturday morning, like early Saturday morning, if that's available to you. So, yeah, so those are actually three. So you got a bonus tip there. Three ways to old school productivity, you know, introvert friendly productivity tools. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about some AI tools or digital tools. So, again, as an introvert, being part of a group, being in team meetings, all of that, work related wise is very draining. And in your personal life, things like making decisions about meals every week, exercise routines, organizing your space, cleaning, staying on track with your goals, like all of those things require your brain to work, your brain to think, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing. But what if you could lighten that load a little bit so that you could rest and recharge more as an introvert? So that is where these digital AI tools come in very handy for us introverts. So, we have talked about Notion on this podcast before. So, that's one tool that I'm not going to go super deep into this because I talked about Notion in a couple of other episodes already. But Notion, you can digitally organize your to-do lists, your appointments, your journaling, like anything that you want to organize can be all in one place. So again, I'm not going to go super deep into that. We've already talked about Notion quite a bit on this podcast. But I do want to just highlight that again, because again, it is a really important tool for introverted people who can't who don't enjoy being part of big meetings and big group discussions and big projects and things like that. So personally, you can use it, but then also at work, you can use it too because there's team spaces. You can share things with your team through Notion as well. So one more way to preserve your energy both at work and in your personal life. So the next AI tool I want to talk about is ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, or Chatty G as I like to call it, is really quite incredible when it comes to productivity and us introverts. So again, I want to go back to, all right, what can ChatGPT do for us? Well, it can help you plan meals. It can help you organize things. It can help you choose a fitness routine for the week. It can help you stay on track with your goals. It can help you write anything. It's a large language model, so language is its forte. So it can write anything for you. Of course, you want to edit it and proofread it because ultimately it is a machine, it is not a human. And so you always, always, always want to edit what it spits out at you. But how this supports us as introverts are two really, really significant ways. So the first, and I've already glossed over these, or talked about, not glossed over, but I've already talked about these. But it's so important to reiterate these because these are the things that can drain us emotionally and mentally. So if you think about what you want to eat, I'm going to just use meal planning as an example. That's the first thing on my list. So if you think about okay, we have to eat food every day, right? We're human, we have to eat. And so the process of thinking about what am I going to eat today? Think about for yourself how much time you spend trying to decide what you're going to eat for average 3 meals a day and snacks. That's a lot of thinking. And then you have to buy the stuff to make the stuff. And then you have to find the time to prep all the stuff or cook each day. It's a lot. And it's requiring a lot from your brain, a lot of that cognitive load that I've talked about, and decision fatigue. So my husband and I, before ChatGPT, we'd be like, oh my God, all right, what do we want for dinner this week? And it would be like, okay, what's in the freezer? And then we just sort of got stuck in this rut of eating kind of the same sort of food week after week after week because we were just so exhausted from trying to decide what to make all the time. Now I'm starting to get him on board with ChatGPT because he is not a tech guy at all. Like doesn't use, he uses Amazon and Google frequently, but beyond that, like using tech tools, he's not the most tech savvy dude. So I'm helping him with that. So anyway, ChatGPT, how it is supporting us and reducing that decision fatigue and reducing our cognitive load each week, I'll be like, okay, ChatGPT, I want to use chicken as my main source of protein this week. Can you come up with meals for, 5 days using chicken? And that's a really bad prompt. I actually am putting together information on teaching how to create a chat GPT, which is a whole other thing. But that's a very focused way to ask it very specific questions. So I'll be talking about that more in other episodes, but just to give you a little sneak peek of what I'm working on and what's to come in the future. So, anyway, it definitely, like, it thinks for you. It's your second brain. Okay. And that's what is so awesome about using ChatGPT to support you as an introvert in your daily life. So, the next best thing about ChatGPT is that it doesn't talk back to you unless you want it to, of course. There is a function where it will read its answers to you. But it's not gonna like sit there and chit chat about the weather or chit chat about its kids or, you know, whatever else it's doing on the weekend. It doesn't take up your precious time and your precious brain power talking about nothing. And it works for you quietly in the background, which is so critical for us introverts and our energy. So I am talking about, using AI tools a lot. And again, I just think that as an introvert, especially, they're so helpful and supportive in a way that maybe hasn't supported introverts in the past. And so I think that's why this is so exciting. Like if you think about Zoom, like that's very like draining because you're staring at the computer screen, listening to all these people and trying to keep up with this chat and all the things that are happening, right? But with these AI tools, that is not the case. So it's just really exciting stuff for those of us who need the quiet and need the rest and the recharge. So I want to begin normalizing the need for rest and space. And I think, as a society, I think we're getting better at recognizing that people need rest and people need space, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. And I also think that there's much more work that needs to be done in understanding and appreciating us introverts who definitely are not the loud people in the room. We don't speak up in the meetings. We sit back and listen and observe, and that's not a bad thing. And I think that it has often gotten a bad rap. We like, I don't know. Oh, this is funny. I saw a post on LinkedIn recently and it really kind of sums this up beautifully. It said something, and I'm paraphrasing this. This is not exact, but it said something along the lines of introverts are always told to speak up or be louder, but nobody ever tells extroverts to shut up. And I was like, whoa. Like it was very bold and very funny the first time I read it. But then I'm like, yeah, that's so true. So, to my fellow introverts, let's stay quiet, let's stay thoughtful, and take those moments to recharge for yourself. All while Chatty G can be helping you out in the background. All right. So if you're a fellow introvert like myself, I would love to hear from you, or not, because I totally get it. But if you feel so inclined, I would love to connect with you in a very chill, non-aggressive kind of way. I don't spam people, but I do enjoy chatting, casually, easily on social media. So LinkedIn is my main place where I hang out now, but I'm also on Instagram. So feel free to reach out and connect and let me know what you thought of this episode. I would love to hear from my fellow introverts, what your thoughts are. If you have any questions, please reach out. All right. I hope you have a beautiful week ahead, and I will chat with you again very soon.